All right, I guess I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Twitter. How many of you are already on Twitter? I'm going to assume most. Okay, good. That's what I was hoping, is that almost all of you were already on Twitter. It's pretty basic as far as the sign up goes and as far as setting up your profile. There's really not a lot of stuff to do with it at first. You got your profile picture, you've got your 160 character bio, and that's about all you can really do when you set up your account. What makes you effective at Twitter is how you engage people, not just how many people follow you, but who is following you, and how much information you are able to take in. Most of you are going to be tweeting for organizations, for your bosses, for congressmen, for your CEO, your president, your chairman, whatever. Even if you're just tweeting for yourself, there's ways to build credibility with the people that matter that are already on Twitter. And I found kind of in my own experience, while I tweet for FreedomWorks and I do all the social media for FreedomWorks, there's more credibility with the people that I know face-to-face personally, that follow me, that pay attention to what I say on my political account. So it's a really good practice to get in the habit of not only tweeting for an organization or your congressman, but also, if you're allowed to, and some organizations don't allow this, and that's up to the organization, but the bigger your presence online within your organization, the better. So if you've got 6 people from your organization tweeting and connecting with people, it's going to be a lot more effective than, say, one person who's tweeting from the main account. So just to get started, I've kind of just given you, this is like the most basic outline ever of how to sign up for Twitter, how to follow, how to engage, how to @reply people and actually engage them in conversation, and just some basic guidelines that I'll kind of go over as far as tweeting for your boss or your organization. Just to get started on Twitter, there's already, and what's cool about Twitter at this point is that we've spent the last 2 years or whatever really building a solid conservative community on Twitter. We dominate. We dominate on Twitter. Everybody is already on it. As far as the GOP goes, our congressmen have a much higher percentage than the Democratic congressmen. We've done a really good job of embracing it, but I'm realizing that a lot of people don't really know what to do with it after they kind of get their presence. So the way, and I know, how many of you have more than 500 followers? More than 1,000? Okay. The way you're going to start building your follower count, and the cool thing about Twitter is that it's not like Facebook where you kind of feel awkward like friending people that you don't know, because I know a lot of people have that policy on their Facebook page. They only add people they know. They don't want to really engage people that they don't. Twitter, those rules don't so much apply. You can follow anybody and everybody, and it's a lot more open. It's not nearly as private. There are no privacy settings on Twitter. It's wide open. So you're going to want to start following people. And I've actually gone in and created on my Twitter page, where is it? Just a list, kind of a base of people that I consider kind of the anchors on Twitter. People that have really valuable information, people that have a lot of followers, people that have a lot of influence. So we have, Mark Knoller, who is a White House reporter, Dan Reel, who's a prominent blogger, Ed Morrissey, David All, and people like Chuck Dizzle and X John that I just think are hilarious. So, but this is kind of what I consider kind of the core of the conservative community, and of course, this is not even near exhaustive. But go ahead and start following people that you think are interesting, people that you think are funny, people that have information that you want. And start kind of building your feed of people that you want to engage. And you're going to want to start organizing that, and I found the best way to do it is TweetDeck. The web version of Twitter is really, really, really hard to decipher. It's really hard to kind of keep track, especially once you start following, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 5,000 people. It's really kind of impossible to keep up with what's going on. So you're not going to be able to pay attention to everybody. You're going to start missing information, and you're going to lose a lot of the value of what's out there. Start organizing it. This is kind of the main feed of people that I really think are in my top few hundred that I really want to pay attention to. I don't want to miss their tweets. I have this column right here is for specifically politicians that I think are interesting, that don't suck at Twitter, that are really engaging, that have information. My tweet deck on my iMac in there is even more outrageous. I have lists for all of the red state front pagers. I have a blogger list. I have a list of liberal bloggers and politicians and stuff that I follow and pay attention to, just to kind of see what the other side is saying. So there's a million different ways that you can kind of organize it once you start following all these people and kind of get your information categorized so it makes sense to you. TweetDeck is really awesome about that. And no, not everybody can see your groups. I know that there's Twitter lists, and it's going to make you create a list, but you can make it private so people can't see how you've categorized them. Because I know that's kind of a concern for some people, because there's some people that I'm like, you're boring, I'm going to put you over in this column and whatever. So that's basically how I would recommend just kind of getting started. Like, just start following people, and once you have that feed, start engaging them. Retweet them if they put out something valuable, if they put out some kind of interesting tidbit, something that's funny, some kind of update from the Hill, something that people are going to want to know. Okay, and once you start doing that, they're going to start recognizing you, and they'll probably follow you back. Once they start following you, you have to have information that they want. Be interesting. Find articles. What I do is I leave my TweetDeck up on both of my machines all day long, every day. And if I run across something, and I know that you all run across things all the time, articles that you find, headlines, anything that you think is interesting, that you think can kind of add to the conversation, put it out there. All you have to do is copy paste the headline and the link. It takes you less than 3 seconds to do it and put it out there. And just kind of integrate it into what you do on a day-to-day basis. Make it part of your conversation. Do you have any questions so far? Like, I'm just kind of giving you a real broad, quick outline. Right.
Look at his Twitter account up there.
Yeah, we're watching. Okay, that's him right there tweeting because I follow him. So anyway, yeah, so once you actually have your following, what people find interesting, like, because people generally don't care if you're going out to lunch with your friends. They aren't going to care if you're at Starbucks. They aren't going to care if you just bought a new pair of shoes. But, if you're at an event, like if you go to a conference, if you go to a tea party, if you go to whatever, people really, really, really love that coverage. They love to be a part of the conversation. And if you can offer that, and that's been one of the biggest things for me on Twitter, is saying, okay, wow, I was one of the few prominent people on Twitter at 9/12. So I was there, and have the opportunity to stand on the stage and send out photos from the stage of the million people that are surrounding the stage, getting a chance to walk through the crowd and take pictures of people in the crowd, take pictures of the signs, and really kind of communicate that energy from my perspective throughout the course of the day. And nobody else is going to have that information. And it's information that the mainstream media is not getting out there. It's stuff from on the ground that people are really interested in. And it wound up getting included in all kinds of blogs. My photos and stuff were put all over the internet. So it's a really great way to kind of communicate that. Conferences have also been a big deal for Twitter. So if you go to conferences, how many of you, you guys go to conferences and stuff, meetings, stuff where you've got speakers that are saying interesting things, tweet quotes. That's the kind of stuff that people like. That's the kind of stuff that isn't out there from everybody. It makes you interesting, and it makes you valuable part of the Twitter community. So once you've kind of got that going, really just grow your base. Grow your base. Also, for you guys who are tweeting for, how many of you tweet for your boss, congressman, your CEO, your president, whatever, your organization? Okay, that's most of you. That's a little bit trickier because you aren't tweeting it yourself. So stuff that you find interesting may not be appropriate for your organization. And that's okay. That's okay, because I've got a completely different Twitter account for me than I do and I'm lucky enough to work at a place where they don't get mad at me for tweeting on my own account. They let me do what I want, as long as I tweet what's appropriate for the organization from the FreedomWorks account, which is great. And we've done a really good job, I think, doing that. I think, how many of you have your website or your blog from your company that really directly feeds into your Twitter feed that auto puts it out? All right, a few of you. People know when it's an auto feed. They know that it's not you putting it out there. They know that it's not a human on the other end of that. It's fine in some circumstances, as long as you balance it out with that interaction. Because what is going to draw people into your organization, what is going to draw people into that account and make your organization more interesting than someone else's is that human touch, the fact that they know that they're connecting with somebody at that organization on the other end. I feel like our role as a new media person, and the reason I haven't started accounts, I don't tweet for Mr. Army, I don't tweet for our president, Matt Kibbe, because I feel like it's their personality on the other end that is going to make that Twitter feed interesting. It's going to make it powerful. It's going to make it valuable. And that's why there's some congressmen, and I put them all in my valuable Twitter, whatever, I don't remember what I called it, but that Twitter list I created of new politicians. Politicians that don't suck at Twitter, I think is just the way I described it, yeah. But these are the people that tweet for themselves. And Cory Booker, who's the mayor of Newark, he does an amazing job because he says something, okay, can we do something about this lot on Springfield Ave and 12th Street? It's a real eyesore. And she sent him a photo. He's responding because she just drew something to his attention in the community. He knows what his constituents are saying. He knows what they want him to do. I saw yesterday he was tweeting about a tree that had fallen. And he's like, yeah, I've just sent somebody to take care of it. And that kind of communication is invaluable because if you try to go through phones, if you try to go through emails, you're not going to get that same kind of response. But just because he's watching it, he knows he's made himself available through Twitter. It's right there. Chuck DeVore also has done a great job of this. He tweets for himself from his BlackBerry and goes back and forth. Thad McCotter's been really good about it. These are just people that have really embraced what Twitter is and the fact that it is supposed to be a direct line from constituents and supporters and whoever directly to that congressman. So if there is any way you can convince your congressman in their busy schedule to keep Twitter on their BlackBerry and say, you know, just tweet about votes that are coming up. Tweet about Jason right here. We'll just take a look at this feed because I think he does a really good job of what I'm about to talk about. Where's my internet? There we go. Okay. Jason Chaffetz, he does an amazing job. You know, because he kind of incorporates personal stuff, liking the new Conan promo. You know, it kind of gives you a sense for his personality and who he is, which people really connect with, and they're going to want to engage him, and they feel like they know him. And when people feel like they know you, they want to support you, they want to like you, they don't want to hate you. And I think that has been Chuck DeVore's biggest success within the movement, is that he has got this amazing base all over the country because he's made himself so available and so likable through social media. Liz Carter in Georgia is another example of that. She's made herself so connected and so available, and it's her on the other end of that BlackBerry, and everybody knows it. So when they send her messages, it's her personally responding. And if there's any way you can get your boss or your congressman to do that, I think that is obviously the best option. How many of you think that that is actually going to happen? Or how many of you look at that and you're like, my boss is never, ever, ever going to do that ever. So what's the next step? You can also set up, and Inhofe, his office has done a good job with this. There's no pretense. It's not Senator Inhofe on the other end of this feed. But you can see, this is his press office. And as long as you're upfront about that, people respond to that. And he's still putting out relevant information. There's still people that are consistently, you can see 1 hour ago, 2 hours ago, they're consistently putting out information that people that follow him are going to want to have. So they've done a really good job with this, and there's no pretense. People aren't going to be cranky when they realize that, oh wow, okay, I thought this person was talking to me, and it's really just some staffer sitting in his office that doesn't care who I am, but, you know, why doesn't he care? This is a great alternative if you don't think that your boss is going to be able to do it. Be clear that that account is being run by the office, not by your senator. I had somebody the other day, I was talking, how many of you follow Melissa Clothier? A lot of you probably know who she is if you're online. Melissa tweets. And she, I kind of consider one of my Twitter gurus. She's one that I kind of bounce ideas off of, and we talk about this stuff because we both kind of do some training on this. And she was telling me yesterday, she's like, I've gone back and forth with Thad McCotter for 2 weeks now. And she's like, and if I found it wasn't him on the other end of that Twitter feed, I'd be pissed because he was engaging me, he was having a conversation with me. And if I felt like it was false, that he was putting up a pretense, I'd be angry and it would feel like a fraud to me. And we actually had that conversation on Twitter yesterday, and I think that's kind of the overwhelming response is people on Twitter, they understand that what makes it cool is that it's a direct line to that organization, to that person. So just be clear if you're tweeting for your boss that, you know, hey, it's me. Austin at American Majority. Do you guys, Austin James, they're American Majority, what they do? They're a grassroots training firm, and Austin runs all of their new media stuff. And he tweets as American Majority, but he says, this is Austin at American Majority in the bio, and tweets as American Majority. So people understand that that is one person at that organization that is designated to be a contact for me. And he does a fantastic job of keeping up with everybody that he follows. He responds, he retweets stuff, and he's very engaging under the umbrella of his organization. So he's also growing the brand, the online presence of American Majority while providing a face. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to stop for a second and take questions. Do you guys have questions, or is this just like overwhelming, drinking from a fire hose? Okay. Gosh. So we've covered, gosh, my internet connection is so slow. We've covered growing your account. We've covered what to do when you have followers. We've covered how to engage. I've actually got a list, and I told you I've got this list of people that I consider engaging. And let's just take a look. We'll just take a look at my TweetDeck, and I'll give you guys some examples. And this is Steve. All right, Steve is doing a great job right here tweeting what I'm talking about as I tweet. You know, these are conversations that I've had this morning. Jenna, hey, I'm headed over here. And this is stuff that, you know, people, if you create this conservative base or your, you know, professional base, the people that you work with every day, this is, I mean, this is invaluable information to have. You know, somebody that doesn't know that, hey, I want to go learn about social media, or hey, what about this conference, or hey, you know, there's a meet and greet here tonight. That's stuff that you're not going to be able to get in a lot of other places because it's so spread out. Twitter is a great way to kind of aggregate all of the people that you pay attention to. And if you're consistent about your updates and you're consistent about what's going on, it's a really great way to kind of just stay connected with people and really grow your base. I can honestly say that I would not have a job or I would not be present in the political world at all if it hadn't been for Twitter. And I know Megan kind of helped me with this when I was at LI for a very brief period. My position got eliminated. I was like, hey, I need a job. I just moved to Washington 5 weeks ago, and all of a sudden I'm unemployed. And you know, Megan was trying to help me, and she has all of her connections over at LI with her, you know, the conservative job space over there, and was trying to plug me in somewhere. The best response I got was going on Twitter, because I'd built that network, I'd built that credibility. I was in Washington. Everybody kind of knew what I was doing, and they could look. I mean, you can see, well, this is obviously her strength. She's a social media person. This is what she does. And people knew that. So when I said, I need a job, I immediately got 5 interviews. I had people emailing me saying, hey, I saw that you're looking. Send me a resume. I'll shoot it around for you. And the next day, Adam calls me and says, hey, come on in. And I got 3 offers and accepted a job 5 days later. And it was all based on this network that I'd been able to build on Twitter. And it was because I interact with people and because they felt like, even if I'd never met some people, they felt like they knew me. They felt like they'd met me because they can watch me on Twitter every day. They know generally what my focus is. They know what my strengths are. They know what I'm interested in. And they know who I interact with. They know who I'm connected to professionally. And it gives you a lot more credibility when they can connect with you and they can see your online presence. And it just grows your base so much and grows your network in a way that you're never going to be able to do on a face-to-face, day-to-day basis. Is any of that, be all okay with that? I feel like I'm just firing stuff at you. Rob?
Could you talk a little bit about hashtags?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Don't overdo them. That's the best advice I can give, because I automatically, and actually somebody called out Chuck DeVore on this the other day, and we'll go see if I can pull up this conversation real fast because it was really funny. Because if you look at his, he's got at least 3 hashtags at the bottom of every single tweet. And that's just obnoxious. Like, Nobody wants to see that, like right here. And this is where we called him out. Somebody said, Chuck DeVore is really good on Twitter, but he kind of overdoes the hashtag sometimes. But you can see, okay, Chuck DeVore saw that tweet, he responded and said, what do you mean I overdo hashtags? And then he put a dozen of them in a row. Hashtags are a great way to aggregate when you're at an event. When you're, say for tax day, we had a tax day hashtag that people could follow, and they could see events that were happening all over the country in one stream, even from people they're not following or nor have no idea exist. Everybody that's tweeting into that feed, it aggregates them all, and you can add them right as a column in your tweet deck. And I do this on Tuesdays. How many of you go to Heritage's blogger briefing? I know some of you do. Heritage has their blogger briefing on Tuesdays. So we have people come in, policy people, congressmen, whatever, to give us updates, to give us information. And we can tweet that out as we're sitting there. Say somebody talks about a new website they're building, or somebody has a new initiative they want to draw attention to. You've got a room full of bloggers that are sitting there putting this out on Twitter. And everyone that wants to know what's going on at Heritage can follow the TBB hashtag and see all of that information aggregated into one space. So if you overdo it, I mean, nobody wants to see 800,000 hashtags. Nobody's going to follow 25 hashtags on their own. Generally, they're going to pick a couple that they think are interesting, that they think are relevant. CPAC 10 was a really big one during CPAC. So you could follow people that weren't at CPAC, could follow the CPAC 10 hashtag and know what was going on and still get some of that experience. People that were at CPAC 10 could follow that hashtag and say, okay, there's an event happening on the other side of the hotel that I want to be at. How do I get there? And it was a really great way to kind of bring all that information that, you're probably not going to be following all 200 people that are sitting up in the blogger lounge tweeting from CPAC. But if you see it all in one space, you're going to get all of that information, and it's going to make it a lot harder to miss. Does that clarify things? Does that help?
Yeah. And is there any, in terms of where you put it in your tweet, does that matter?
It doesn't matter at all. It can be anywhere. It can be hard, like if you have, say, with the character limitations and stuff, if you want to add it at the end. So sometimes, in the middle of it, you can substitute, let's see, I'm looking for an example here. I don't have one on my screen right now, but you can kind of add a hashtag into a word sometimes, like say, like with red state a lot of times, I don't want to type out red state. But most of the people on Twitter know that RS in the context of that post is going to mean red state, or if I'm abbreviating it. So I'll put #RS, which is the red state hashtag, instead of writing out red state in the sentence. Does that make sense? So it doesn't have to be at the end or at the beginning or whatever. It can really be anywhere within the tag.
Other than events you're talking about.
Yeah.
RS I didn't know was
red state. Mm-hmm.
What are the more
the big
regular trending hashtags?
TCOT is the standard conservative hashtag, which is just #TCOT, which is top conservatives on Twitter. That's kind of been the long-standing hashtag. That's the one that back before people started losing their minds and fighting with each other, there was the top conservatives on Twitter list, which was a ranking of all of the conservatives on Twitter, and it put them all in one space and kind of organized them by followers and influence. That list itself has kind of dissolved, but that hashtag is really hung on. So you can follow the TCOT hashtag. And really, I mean, to me, the TCOT hashtag is overwhelming because there's so many people that tweet into it now. But if you're looking for conservatives to follow, that's a great way to start, and just click on the TCOT hashtag. Another big one was SGP, which is the Smart Girl Politics tag. And that was, I think, like the 8th most popular hashtag on Twitter last year. So that one got a lot of traction. And they use that, all of the SGP members and people that want to, TCOT and SGP are the two big ones. RS is red state. And TLOT, T-L-O-T, is top libertarians on Twitter. So #TLOT. Those are really the 4 that I would recommend. Right now, obviously, CA10 for the California 10 race is a big one. And a lot of times the congressional districts, during hot elections and that kind of stuff are a big deal. Like I know during the Scott Brown election, everybody was following MASEN, which is Massachusetts Senate. So you put #MASEN, and that would kind of aggregate all of the Scott Brown tweets, that kind of stuff. So they are kind of fluid, they are kind of flexible, they are going to change sometimes. There's going to be times when you know, they go away, they come back, and, you know, but the standard ones are T-Cotton, SGP, and Red State. The rest of them are going to kind of, as they're relevant.
Now, you told me last week P2 is one for the other
P2,
side.
yes.
What are ones that we can follow to learn about other information or to be
right? I'm going to be as honest as I can be with this, and the left has done a really crappy job on Twitter, and they haven't really found ways to aggregate themselves. Top Prog was one, which is Top Progressives, TOPPROG. That was one of the progressive hashtags. The other one is P2. So those are really the only two that really got traction, I think, as far as I know, as far as the liberal side of the Twitter world, that have really done a good job of kind of collecting that, which I do follow P2 occasionally. It kind of makes me hate life sometimes reading it. Caleb Howe from Red State made a joke the other day. He's like, if you ever start feeling optimistic about humanity, go check out the P2 hashtag. That'll learn you. Because it's true. I mean, a lot of it's just vile, you know, and they spend half their time hating Sarah Palin. There are some that do a really good job. I think Teresa Kopek is one of the liberals on Twitter that I think is intelligent, and she's frustrating, but she will actually have lucid conversations with you. There's a handful of them that do a really good job. Tommy Christopher, who writes for Mediaite, his handle is Tommy Xtopher. He's another liberal that's great to follow, really good content, good conversation. So that's some of like how I kind of gauge. I pay attention to them, and you know, of course, there's the trolls, and there's the people that everybody hates and like to throw flames. Amanda Marcotte is one I think I mentioned at the New Media Exchange a couple weeks ago, where she's one that, you know, is great to fight with, and Twitter wars are really good ways to get followers. So if you feel like engaging somebody in a battle, Amanda Marcotte is awesome for that. So, anybody question?
I agree that a lot of hashtags is annoying, but isn't the point of hashtags to spell you directly? So why wouldn't you want to use multiple hashtags each time? Because a lot of people that are on Twitter a lot start to ignore them. Nobody wants to look at 7 hashtags. Nobody wants to look at a tweet that has every other word hashtagged. It's just an etiquette thing more than anything. It's like, yeah, if something's really important, I would never add more than 3. I would never add more than 3 hashtags. I rarely use hashtags to begin with unless I'm at an event like CPAC where I want to, or Tax Day. I was tweeting with the Tax Day hashtag. Yeah.
We always use 3.
Uh-huh.
And my congressman is one from San Diego.
Okay.
So we always put San Diego in there because the San Diego hashtag has its own life
Mm-hmm.
to it. We always put GOP in there just.
Right.
But the other thing we do.
And that's another good hashtag to follow, by the way.
Speaking to what you were saying about the left, we always put the rarely used Dem hashtag in there, just so, because we're in a purple district, he has this, you know, ability to look like he's speaking to both sides.
Mm-hmm.
When you go and follow the Dem hashtag, people are doing it once an hour or whatever, but it's so subtle, but it's not used like GOP or Tea Party.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives us this wonderful impression of being bipartisan.
Mm-hmm.
We want to do anything for the district. So those 3, San Diego, GOP, Dem.
Right, and that's another good point. And that San Diego is one where, you know, if you were writing about San Diego, that's one where you would probably hashtag it within the sentence instead of like tagging it on at the end. You would say, okay, you know, listen up, San Diego, and you can add the hashtag or the pound sign right in front of that instead of writing it out and then hashtagging it again at the end. That's just a character saver and makes it a little easier to swallow. So, I mean, everybody has their own use for hashtags, and there's some, like, not every city is going to have an active hashtag for itself. San Diego does, but, you know, if you're in Wichita, Kansas, they're probably not going to have an active Wichita hashtag. So just pay attention to, and you can track it. You know, if you want to know what's going on, you can just go to search.twitter.com and look up #Wichita and see what kind of conversation is happening there and if it's worth, you know, incorporating that into your Twittering. Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions or examples, excuse me, for promoting a book?
That's really interesting. Yes. Jason Matera has been promoting his book like hardcore crazy lately. And he wrote a book called Obama Zombies. Let me go check out I'll show you Jason's tag, or Jason's page. But what's cool about this is I've watched people who have been reading his book, who have interviewed him about his book, who have reviewed his book, whatever. You know, he still tweets about other stuff. He still makes himself interesting. And there's him slamming Tommy Christopher, slamming Media Matters. But if you go through, like, you know, he'll tweet about his book and he'll talk about, okay, hey, I'm on here, you know, I'm on Hannity tonight discussing Obama zombies. And you can just include a link to where to buy it. You know, if you want to mention it anytime, you know, anytime you go do something. If you're on a book tour, Karl Rove has been on his tour. He's been another one. And he'll tweet out photos from his book tour where he meets people that, you know, signing autographs, that kind of stuff. And he'll tweet out photos and tweet out his location, then tweet out kind of, you know, sometimes people will tweet out excerpts from their books. They'll tweet out quotes that are interesting. And I've done that with Army. You know, when I was reading Axioms and that kind of stuff, you know, he's so quotable that, you know, I was pulling out lines from that. And, you know, you can kind of throw a quote out there and say, you know, from Army's Axioms. And, you know, kind of hopefully generate some interest that way.
How did that resonate?
They resonate really well if you choose good ones. People love funny quotes. They love things that are profound. It's hard to, you know, sometimes it's hard to limit to 140 characters. Oh, and this is another tip. If you want to get retweeted, keep the character count down to like 119 or 120, not 140. Your limit is 140. But if people have to go through and edit your tweet and chop letters out and chop stuff out of it, they're not going to retweet it. So if you keep it, and Michelle Malkin's awesome about this, she'll do the editing for you and keep it down to where you can just click the retweet button in your tweet deck and it's not going to be any more complicated for the person that wants to retweet it. And that's a big deal. So if you pull a quote out, you've really only got 120 characters. But you can pull out something interesting, something funny, something particularly witty or profound or whatever. And if you can do it in 120 characters, that's a really powerful thing. And it will get retweeted. Like I tweeted a quote from Army this weekend, and I think it got retweeted like 25 times immediately just because it was something that people could laugh at. Humor is a great way to get yourself some attention on Twitter, by the way. The funnier you can be, the better. And there's some people that really don't have any political capital at all. They're not, you know, they just believe the same way that we do, or that I do. And they just make me laugh all the time. So I end up retweeting them a lot. And I put some of them on the top list just because they're entertaining, and it really can really set the tone of the entire conversation. Like there's certain people that, you know, that you'll see once you get on there. Jake Tapper's one of them. Caleb Howe is one of them. But there's a handful that really can drive the entire conversation on Twitter for several hours at a time. So, yeah.
This is kind of off subject. I've noticed some people have the automated direct message if you follow them. What is like the vibe?
Most people hate it.
Okay.
People hate it. It's so annoying. Like, especially if you go through and like you go back and you follow these 100 people that I've just said, hey, follow them.
You got 100.
If you get, even half of them, even if half those people had auto DMs, you get 50 DMs back. That's obnoxious. Because a lot of people have them set up to their phone, so they're getting them as text messages. Because you can set up, you know, the DMs to come directly as a text message to your phone. So when that happens, like, you know, you go follow a couple hundred people and you get 50 DMs back, it just drives people nuts. And I don't think it's very effective. I think it clutters up a direct message box.
It doesn't really say much.
It doesn't really say much, I think. Yeah, I mean, that's personal preference, I think, and some people do use them. I gave up on them right after, because I did it when I first signed up. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool way to, you know, thank people and direct them to my blog or whatever. But it's really just not worth it. I think the best way to get someone's attention is reply them and engage them in a conversation. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Foursquare?
I think Foursquare is kind of the same thing as not ODM. It's kind of annoying. I think it can be interesting sometimes, like if you actually have something to add about where you are and say like, I have a funny story actually about Foursquare where we were at the Gateway Marriott Lounge in Crystal City, and two of my friends had checked in, and they're both engaged. but not to each other. And when the second person updated their Foursquare, it said so-and-so and so-and-so are at the Crystal Gateway Marriott together, and it sent it out to all 4,000 of their followers. So it looks like the two of them are checking in no hotel together. And they're like, oh wow, I really hope my fiance didn't just see this. Foursquare can be entertaining. Like, I think if it's used right, like if you're at a restaurant and you want to, say something nice about the restaurant or say, awesome food or whatever, that's a little bit different, I think, but nobody wants to know where you are every single, minute of the day.
But you haven't been able to find like political applications for that. Maybe on like a campaign trail, it could be useful, but
really, what's it going to say? I'm at Borders. I'm at, the Georgia Capitol. And say you were at, a Capitol somewhere or something. That is something that might be interesting to say, okay, hey, I'm at this Capitol building. And there's a space where you can add, some kind of comment or some kind of, annotation as far as why you're there. I think that could definitely be effective. But you have to make it interesting because otherwise it just turns into a series of updates and nobody cares that you're, But yeah, I think it's all in how you use it. Yes?
Can you talk about backgrounds that don't suck or
Yeah.
that aren't too MySpace-y?
Yeah, backgrounds are really something that I suck at because I'm not a graphic designer. But backgrounds, yeah, I think that's something, I'll show you Melissa's. And I don't love hers visually, but this gets the purpose across as far as what you can really do with the background. First of all, you have to pay attention that not everybody's screen is the same size. Some people have screens that are really going to cover only your Twitter column. You're not going to see either side of it, which means that a background is completely inconsequential. For the people that do, like with Melissa's right here, you can see, if you scroll down, okay, there's her photo, and it tells you, oh gosh, see, and this is another example. My screen size isn't going to show the whole Twitter background. So I think that's the trouble that you run into those. But you can put, I think it's cool to put a photo, your website, if she's brave and put her email address right there. You can put your company logo if you want to put your company logo. I had one for a long time that was a Smart Girl Politics background where I had the SGP logo, what I did for SGP, kind of who you are. And it really gives people, it gives you a chance to really cover more than right there. It's kind of an expansion of that. So you can list what you're involved in, other places to find you. Like when I started at FreedomWorks, I added the FreedomWorks Twitter handle there, that kind of stuff. I think the main thing is don't make it, and this is even too much for me, keep it kind of toned down, keep it simple, and make sure that you focus on the left-hand side of the screen because anything that shows up in the middle is not going to be seen by anybody.
But there are sites or applications to...
Yeah, there's sites or applications to do it. I think the easiest way is you can actually download templates that you can import into Photoshop and photo programs where you can build it on your own software with the Twitter background template. And you can just Google, design Twitter background or Twitter background design or, there's a million different ways to do it. But I honestly would just start with a Google search. And there's new ones popping up constantly. Some work better than others. It's going to be kind of a trial and error thing. But that'll give you the right size to make and kind of give you an idea of how to fit it in. My tweet deck anyway. So I rarely actually go to somebody's Twitter profile. Unless it's something like I want to look up something that somebody said a couple days ago or whatever. Generally, I'm just going to get all my information here. So it's pretty rare that I actually go to a page. And you have to take that into account too because I think most people tweet from their phones. They tweet from their third-party apps. Yeah. So I don't think it's something that you want to spend a ton of time or money on, but I think it's something that's definitely worth having if you got the resources to do it. Yeah.
Question about, do you think there's one website that kind of abbreviates URLs?
Yes, and this is something that TweetDeck does automatically for you. Most third-party Twitter apps will do it immediately for you. When you copy-paste, what he's talking about is like taking a link and going in.
I use Bitly. I use
yeah.
tiny
So it automatically shrinks it. Bitly is what I have set as my default there's a million different URL shorteners, and you can actually change it when you're in TweetDeck. If you are still using the web version, you can just go to bit.ly and shorten it there. So you can paste it there and click shorten, and it gives you your link. And that's just a great way to save characters, because if you spend 75 of your characters on a URL, you really can't say very much, and it's really hard to retweet. So, plus it's just annoying. So, yes.
You've talked a bit about tweeting as an individual or a member.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about tweeting as an organization?
Okay, and yeah, I mentioned, I'll pull up Austin's American Majority site. I think the most important thing with tweeting as an organization is kind of being upfront with, first, you can approach it two different ways. You can approach it as, okay, he's upfront about the fact that he's Austin. And everybody knows that follows him, and he'll talk as Austin, and he'll, talk about where he is and what he's doing. But he's using the organization's brand.
Do you think that's helpful to have, like, a name to the account?
Personally, yes. I think that's personal preference. I haven't done that with FreedomWorks. When I tweet for FreedomWorks, it's just FreedomWorks. But I think that's mainly because I have my personal account that's, every bit as influential as the FreedomWorks account. So I use that, and I'll, instead of tweeting as, Tabitha at FreedomWorks, I'll tweet from FreedomWorks, and then I'll retweet as me. I think that people like to have someone that they connect to, and that's what it goes back to, is if you have a face and they have someone that they know that becomes their contact on the other end of that Twitter feed, that's probably the most powerful way to go about it. If you just have a feed that comes directly from your website, which a lot of people do, and it's a great way to make sure that you're getting updated consistently, because that's critical, is updating it on a consistent basis. It really does matter to have that personal touch in there and have somebody. And people love getting retweeted from organizations. When Austin started retweeting me, it was like, oh, cool. There's an organization out there, a grassroots organization that I, really respect, that I think is a cool organization that I like working with, that's actually following what I'm saying and paying attention to me. And it makes you feel like you have a voice and like you're connected to that organization and have some investment. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Related to the organization, my organization basically doesn't have the manpower to not automate our feeds. But what do you think about mixing some automation?
And that's exactly what we do. That's exactly what we do, is because I'm all over the place, and there are times right now I've been on the road since Saturday, and I've been on the road actually the majority of the past couple months, so it's really hard for me to be consistent with the FreedomWorks account. So we have, the automation that, pulls our blog posts and stuff and sends them out. But I also monitor all the time our Twitter feed. I know what's happening. If somebody says something that I think is interesting and I want to retweet, I'll retweet it. I'll reply to people that have a question for us, people that send us DMs. I'll reply to those. So I think there is a way to find that balance and make sure that there's consistent updating as well as the personal connection on that account.
And how about coordinating with other organizations? Like if Matt Kibbe has an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, do you have their Twitter account say Matt Kibbe from @FreedomWorks?
And that all depends. That all depends on the other organization. When I talk to somebody on Twitter, yeah, I usually use the @reply if it's something that I want them to see. If I really want it to, be drawn, something that should be drawn to their attention, yeah. I'll tweet to @AmSol for American Solutions, or @Newt Gingrich, or @American Majority, or was it Leadership Inst, or yeah, Leadership Inst. Trying to remember the Twitter handles. But yeah, if it's something relevant to those, I will absolutely direct it right to that organization. And that's something that I think should apply to pretty much everyone, is, really using those Twitter handles is a great way to kind of keep that conversation going. Because that if you @reply that person's Twitter handle, that they're going to see it, they're not going to miss it, it's going to show up in their feed. And all it does is put you in their consciousness one more time. So that's how, I mean, I remember when I met Michelle Malkin for the first time, the first thing she said to me is, "Oh my gosh, you're one of my first Twitter friends." And it was because I built that relationship with her on Twitter. She has no reason to care who I am. But because we made that connection online, she was able, I mean, I was in her consciousness, so she followed my Twitter feed. So she started linking my blog posts in her blog and that stuff, because it was all, right in front of her, because she had, I'd built some credibility with her, and she started paying attention to me. And same with so many other bloggers. It's just a way to kind of stay on the radar. Any other questions? Or are we? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
How about like tweeting photos? Because I have no idea how to do that.
I love photos. I love photos. If you've got a BlackBerry, you can tweet them directly from your BlackBerry.
This doesn't have a camera on it, so I
okay.
don't know, like.
Okay, great. Then you can tweet them right from your computer. I'll show you how to do that. I mean, if you've got, how many of you tweet from the web? Get a third-party app. Seriously, get TweetDeck, and I will come help you set it up, because seriously, tweeting from the web just makes everything 1,000 times more complicated. On TweetDeck, everything is built directly in. So this little icon right here, that little camera icon, is how you upload photos. So if I click on this little camera right here, I can go in and choose whatever photo I want, and it'll upload it directly to tweetphoto.com. If you're using the web, you can go to TweetPhoto and sign in with your Twitter handle. But you can see, like, using a third-party app, this would take 5 seconds. This becomes a process. So I'm signed in via Twitter, and I can go choose a photo. And I tweeted this photo on tax day. It's a photo of, Army with Greta Van Susteren. So you just do that. You click upload. There you go. And I just uploaded this photo to TweetPhoto. I've got a link here. You copy paste that, and you can tweet out your photo. Does that make sense? But clearly the easiest way from your computer is through your third-party app, because they've all got those little ways to embed your tweet photo into your tweet. If you're on an iPhone or a BlackBerry, it's even easier, because it's right there. And I know if you have Twitterberry, you can, when you go to create a new tweet and you press your little menu button, there's a way, it says upload photo. The iPhone is the same way. You can actually click take a picture while you're in TweetDeck and not even get out of TweetDeck to do it. So using your third-party apps, use them. I can't tell you enough. It's going to make your life so much easier. And I think you'll really start to get Twitter once you start to get that organization and start to build that following and start to really connect with people. Yeah?
What about video? Is it the same thing, or is that?
Video is the same way. There's a couple different ways you can do that. I have my Twitter feed hooked to Ustream. So when we do Ustream stuff, and I did some live streaming during the rallies and that sort of thing, yeah, you can tweet out links to your live stream right through that. I know you've done Quick before, Rob, when we've done this sort of stuff.
I just mean from a user, like, do people like to get video, or is it like?
It depends. Usually it's pretty nasty quality. So, I mean, I think the best way to do video on Twitter is to upload it to YouTube and tweet links to YouTube videos, or if you've got a live stream. That's pretty much what I would recommend. Those are, because obviously YouTube's going to be the best quality that you're going to get on the web. Plus it's a way, if you're tweeting a video out, you really want to be able to track those views and track who's watching it and really kind of build that. And I know, we've been trying to build our YouTube channel recently, and we've done a lot more video stuff. So tweeting the links to that, you can pay attention to how viral it's getting on Twitter and really, actually look back and look at the hard numbers and see, wow, these many hits came from Twitter. So I think that that's the best way to go about it, unless you've got some sort of live stream or something that you want to tweet out a link to. So, anything else? Or we've covered a lot. I know it's like a lot of information, but I hope that helps, and I hope that, I kind of communicated what it can really accomplish. if you really harness it. So, and download TweetDeck, dude. That makes me sad.
Are there other?
Yeah, there's other apps. There absolutely are. There absolutely are. There's Hootsuite. There's Hootsuite, which is actually web-based. I personally like TweetDeck's just been my favorite. It's, you know, integrated with my iPhone. You know, I can keep all the same columns and everything right in my phone. So that's been the biggest thing for me. Hootsuite is a web-based one, so you can access it from any computer once you've created your groups and your columns and stuff. And it's HOOTSUITE. And that's another application. There's also Split Tweet, which is a way to manage several different accounts if some of you have your personal account and your, you know, boss's account or whatever that you're managing. There's Twirl, there's like a million different apps. Seismic is another one that a lot of people use. I think Seismic is pretty good.
I use it to organize all the different ones and not accidentally tweet something from my dog, something on my boss's account.
Right. Right, which and you can do that with actually most of the third-party apps now. We're going to let you, like I, you know, manage 4 accounts from my TweetDeck here, so you can kind of keep track of which one you're tweeting from. Yeah, but that's it. And I mean, you know, as far as your I think it's a really good idea to have it directly on your phone. You know, Twitterberry is the best one for BlackBerry. As far as iPhone goes, I haven't found anything that beats TweetDeck, but, you know, it's all preference. There's Echo Phone, there's, I don't know, just Google. Honestly, you can look in your iPhone apps and look up Twitter, and same with BlackBerry. So, and you can update it via text, even if you don't, you know, have a smartphone. You can use your text message and update throughout the course of the day. Just text to 40404 once you've linked it to your account. So, I guess that's all I got for you. So, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening to me ramble.